Welcome to the Health on Track podcast. Let's talk well-being.
Welcome to the Health on Track podcast, offering you a shot of wellness. I'm Hayley, Member Engagement and PR Manager at GIG Golf. Our episode today is about emotional intelligence, a skill that's equally important in your work and in your personal life. A skill that, although seems obvious and natural, can be very hard to master. Hopefully today will help you take a few steps closer to mastering it. We're here today with Mina Wasfi, an international award-winning author of the best self-help book in 2023, Doubt to Certainty. He's focused on helping organizations and people make better decisions. His approach is to provide pragmatic and effective solutions to solve cognitive challenges, limiting organizational and individuals' potential. Thank you, Mina, for being here with us today. I'm so excited to learn about emotional intelligence. So can you just start by giving us a brief overview of what is emotional intelligence?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me today. Daniel Goleman is the father of emotional intelligence. That's what they call him. And the reason why is because I think he has the most academic and scientific work on that side. And the way he defines emotional intelligence is that your ability to both control your emotions and also to manage the emotions of others. And I think this is where I personally get a little bit more curious about that. How can you manage other people's emotions? And this is how he breaks it down. He's like, if you're an emotionally intelligent person, that means you master 4 key competencies, basically, or skill sets. The first one is self-awareness. So you're a more emotionally intelligent person if you know who you are. Think of your values, your perspectives, your motives, your ability to articulate exactly how you feel, etc. And the second pillar is self-management. So how able you are to actually get yourself under control when you want. You get yourself to behave the way you want, to make the decisions the way you want. And that reflects in the way you spend your time, for example, the way you respond to external stimulus, the way you interact with your own thoughts and your own ideas, right? So the first one is self-awareness, second one is self-management. This has to do with yourself. Now, when it comes to what has to do with others, and this is the managing other people's emotions commonplace, there are another 2 pillars. The first of them is relationship management, how likely you are to manage your relationship with people. And so your ability to manage their relationship successfully reflects how emotionally intelligent you are. And then the second pillar when it comes to dealing with others, and the fourth of all pillars of emotional intelligence is empathy, your ability to relate to others. And empathy is not the ability to feel what others feel, because I think it's very difficult because you're not in their seat. But what you can actually do is just try and relate how they feel. And I think, and I left this to the end because I think this is the more complicated one of the 2. And the reason being that it takes real courage and strength to let go of how you feel or what you think, what your perspectives are, and genuinely and curiously embracing other people's perspectives and how they see things, and be able to actually relate and therefore understand where they come from. That's what empathy is, right?
Yeah.
Manage your own self, your own emotions, and also manage the emotions of others via having higher self-awareness, by being able to manage yourself as in self-control, by being able to more successfully manage relationships with others, and by being a more empathetic person. And that sums up the...
There's a lot to that. I mean, when I think of emotional intelligence, I just think, do they have emotions? Like, can they relate to what I'm saying? But there's a whole aspect to emotional intelligence, as you just mentioned. And it's interesting that you say empathy is part of one. That kind of empathy is one of the biggest pillars in this, because when you're trying to relate to someone with empathy, that's a whole piece in itself. So like to have that as the emotional intelligence piece is a huge thing as well. Mm-hmm. So your book is award-winning. Congratulations, 2023. Can you tell me a bit more about your book and why it's award-winning?
Can I start with a little bit of background why? Like
yes.
What made me
well, yeah,
write
what
this
made you
book?
do it? What
Yeah.
made you write the book? Please.
It's a very personal experience. I gone through a lot of life experiences, difficult ones, and I like that because it made me a stronger person. But then what I started to learn that whatever I grew up believing in is not necessarily right. There is no right, right? It's very subjective, and it's relative in my opinion. And the more I realized the benefits and the positive impact it had on my life, and I'm talking about the freedom of choosing to believe what you want to believe, how you want to see the world, and how empowering that could be, that was life-changing for me. And I decided to put it in the book. And now, if you want people to read a book, you need to solve a problem. And I started to ask, what sort of problem would that realization solve for me and for others? A very, very long journey of exploration, manuscript, through it, nah, it doesn't work, right? Another manuscript, nobody wants to read that, and you know. And then I eventually ended up with, I found it, it's decision making. Life is all about decisions.
So many.
It's all about decisions.
Yeah.
You and I are here because you made a decision to be here. You guys called me up, and I thank you again for this. And then I decided to be here. Our audience decided to listen to us, makes the podcast purposeful, etc. It's all decisions, right?
Yeah.
This is how life operates. And if Haley makes a decision, this is input for Mina to make a decision. If you did not make a decision to be here, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to make a decision and agree to be here with you, right?
Yeah.
It all has to do with decisions. And I think this relates back to emotional intelligence, because what sort of decisions are you making, right? If you're very conscious and you're aware of the way you make decisions, and you're not on autopilot all the time, you're actually consciously making decisions, minor ones, or I would say daily ones, but also major, important, complex ones. The more conscious you are making these decisions, the more considerable you become on the impact of these decisions on others as well. And now let's go back to Daniel Goleman's 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. If you're self-aware and you have self-control, you make better decisions, and you are more conscious of managing your relationship more successfully. And if you are, or if you have become a more empathetic person, then you also, while making these decisions, you're always thinking about the impact of these decisions on other people's life, because this will end up with them making decisions, end up with them shaping their lives. Yeah. This is how we all impact each other.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting. I think you said about autopilot. A lot of us just live in autopilot because we're so busy. So you don't actually think about it. You just make the decisions and you go, make a decision and go. And what you said then really hit a spot with me, is that any decision you make will ultimately have an impact. So if I decided to leave 20 minutes later than I did today, and I was late for this podcast, that has an impact on you, because you've decided to leave on time and get here for respect. So that's just like a small example, but you don't think about small things like that that we make every single day.
True.
So I love that for you. So I'm actually very excited to read the book myself. Why do you think, you've kind of delved into some of this, but about why is it important to be emotionally intelligent? In your words, what is kind of like a very brief overview of why is emotional intelligence important?
Why is it important?
Yes.
Well, I think importance is relative. It depends on what you're looking for. It depends on what your values are, what you consider to be most important in life, how you want to spend your life, what success looks like to you, how you define that, a little bit of beliefs, worldviews as well. So I think when you say important, this is where it gets a little relative. Mm-hmm. But I want to play a game with you, and I think it will make a point. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll make a point that I think most people would relate to.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a sequence. I need you to tell me what the rule is. All right?
Okay.
Very simple sequence. And the rule is, and you get to tell me. All right? Sequence is 2, 4, 6. What's the rule?
6, 4, 2.
What's the rule? So what could be the fourth number? So 2, 4, 6, and then
8.
What made you say 8?
Because that's what I've been conditioned, because it's going and
because you picked on the sequence, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. The next number could be an 8, but the rule is not an addition of 2. Could be a 12, but the rule is not even numbers. I'm not trying to be smart here.
No.
The first time I played this
Maths is not
game,
my strong point either, by the way. So I was like, oh no, it's maths.
I was not able to get it. I played this with a lot of clients,
Yeah.
whether collectively in training programs and group coaching setup, or individually as well. I haven't met somebody who was able to crack the rule. And the rule is simply increasing numbers. So the next number could be an 8, could be a 12, could be 1,000, could be a 6.1. 2, 4, 6,
Seven.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
7 could be a 7, right? But it cannot be a 5. Now, the thing about being conscious and being emotionally intelligent in the sense of being self-aware, and that's the first pillar, and being really mindful of what you really want to believe in and testing your own thoughts and being conscious, that's what conscious is all about, right? You're actually questioning things before you make decisions about them. That enables you, by definition, to make so much out of so many opportunities that you could have missed out on if you are on autopilot. And so you wouldn't stick to, yeah, I expect an 8 now, right? It came a 9. I go like, nah, I need an 8. 9 is not good enough. But why not? Why don't we test a 9, right? So sticking to one's agenda and sticking to one's expectations is sometimes a little too diminishing for one's potential, I would say. And the more open we are to opportunities that life presents us, and it all has to do about our perspectives, by the way. I'll give you another story. It's a true story. I have a dog. I have a German Shepherd at home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I have a sign at the door at home.
Be aware.
From the outside, exactly, right? Like I say danger,
Yeah.
protected by German Shepherd, right?
Yeah.
My dog is not aggressive, but it's the nature of a German Shepherd, right? And so a lot of delivery guys, when they come, they ring the bell, I open the door, and Duke, my German Shepherd, immediately pushes his head out of the door. 9 times out of 10, the person takes a step back, right? Now let me ask you a question. What makes them do that?
Because of the sign or because of their thought process of how that dog's behavior?
Exactly. They anticipate, they assume how the dog is going to behave. Where is the perspective coming from? So they have a perspective, dog equals danger, dog is a threat. And this generates the emotion of fear. And then, consequently, fear is expressed by the behavior of withdrawal. It all has to do with the perspective. If you want somebody to be less scared, I don't think you need to tell them not to be scared.
You're
just
preempting. Be scared. You might be scared in a minute.
But I don't want you to be, you know.
Please don't be. The dog is very friendly.
Now, this is what they want to hear. If the owner tells them he's not going to bite you, he's super friendly, now they're more likely to calm down. But if I start addressing the fear, address the emotion, that's not going to change anything because this is not the root of the issue. And I think what makes us more emotionally intelligent, managing our emotions is the product of us being emotionally intelligent. So if you're able to work on your emotional intelligence as a person, that would reflect like what would good look like, or what would look like a measurable result is how you feel towards different external stimulus, right? Mm-hmm. But then how do you actually get to work on that is to work on your perspective. Stop seeing everything as a threat. What happens if you start seeing everything as an opportunity? And the only way for you to do this is to have a vision, right? Because if you have a goal and something happens, if your first thought is, how am I going to use this event to reach what I want, instead of how is this event threatening me? How is this event threatening me? That stress, I'm a little bit out of control. I fight, flight, freeze, right? I can't think clearly. I'm not aware of myself anymore. Let go. I have the ability to control the emotions of others. But if I already have a plan, if I already have a vision, and I go like, interesting. Now I'm running late to the podcast. How am I going to use this to still impress my hosts? Why? Because my agenda was always to impress my hosts. So if I have a vision already, if I have a plan, I tend to be more agile in receiving whatever happens, unforeseen circumstances, and instead of receiving them from an entitlement perspective and trying to enforce my expectations and say it is an 8 and it has to be an 8 and I'm going to do whatever I have to make it an 8. If life presents a 12, I go like, what would that look like? How can I use a 12?
Yeah. You're making my mind just think double over at the minute. It's so interesting what you're saying, but how do I, as a person or any of our audience members, how do you take the step back and not be the victim and not kind of allow external factors to kind of affect you? Because that's a really hard thing.
It is, and it's a very good question, and I thank you for it. One of the powerful questions I use with my clients, and it always has this effect on people. When they come with a conflict or a problem and I ask them, what's important to you? For some reason, they usually pause and think. which gives me the impression that maybe they haven't paid enough attention to that little detail before. And I think the more conscious and aware you are of what really is important to you, the more likely you are to put yourself under control, make the life you want to make decisions the way you want to make, and have the capacity and the emotional energy to manage your relationships with others in a more influential and a more impactful and a more successful way. What am I talking about here? I am simply talking about you having the vision, having the plan, right? And us just spontaneously, back to the autopilot situation, us just spontaneously, reacting to external stimulus doesn't really serve us because it's such a distraction. And emotions are distractions. If you're making your decisions based on emotions, you're being distracted, right? The way to manage any situation in the world, if you want to be very conscious and very present and very logical in the way you make decisions, and you make them in a way that are conscious and constructive enough, then one of the key questions, and I think this is a practical tip, one of the key questions would be, what's important to me in that situation? What do I really want? And once you have a clear answer on what you really want and what makes you want that, everything else would sound like, a distraction. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant how this person spoke to me this way. Yeah, a person has been rude to me. So I tend to shout back. I'm yelling at the person back. But if I pause for 1 second and say, what's important to me in this situation? What do I want to get out of this situation? I'm actually late at work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to respond at all. I'm just going to walk away. Not respond at all. I'm not going to waste my time. But reacting spontaneously, I'm not talking here about not being authentic. I'm not talking about faking reactions. I'm just talking about conscious response to whatever is stimulating around us. And so, to answer your question, how do we start onto this journey of being more emotionally intelligent? I would say that the very first step is to be conscious, is to work on yourself. There's so many different exercises, self-reflection exercises that people can use, and one of the most powerful of them is being aware of what's important to you in a given situation.
That's a very powerful question to ask yourself, because, as we said again, I'm going to bring up autopilot again. A lot of us go to work, come home, family, eat dinner, watch some TV, go to bed, wake up, do it all again. And it's really, so how can you advise people to do the self-reflection work? Because myself, I have gone through this work. I've had coaches. I've had many different coaches. I've had therapist coaches, life coaches, and kind of I've been in lots of circles with people that were very conscious, which then allowed me to then be conscious. It's what I used to find is that a lot of my friends who wanted to kind of be in that conscious mindset and understand who they were, what they wanted out of life, they struggled to know how to be around conscious people and how to do it themselves as well. Because I do feel that it's easier when you're with groups of people that are very conscious. You just become the same. The projection of energy, everyone kind of stimulates off of each other, and you start to think as one, as a united whole. But if you're kind of in a state where you are on your own, but you want to kind of be more conscious, how can you recommend, and someone who's very busy, for instance, how can you recommend that person makes space for themselves and makes the time to kind of allow themselves the questions?
I love what you said there about having the right people surrounding you, right? Having the support system or the inspiration sort of social setup, that's super, super important. And I want to use that point to also use the word you said, busy. Some people are busy. And I think for somebody to be emotionally intelligent, just like somebody wants to be intellectually intelligent, like IQ, right? Mm-hmm. Like I want to be a smarter person when it comes to mathematical equations. Then what do you do every day? You train. Some people are naturally gifted. They don't need that. They are born smart.
Yeah.
Some people want to increase their capacity of intellectual, analytical, or problem-solving skills. And so what they do is they spend some time every day. I don't know. They install game apps, on their smartphones or whatever, and they spend some time training. It's the exact same concept. Yeah, you could be busy, but how important is it for you to become a more emotionally intelligent person? It is an investment decision. If you say, if I become a more emotionally intelligent person, I'm going to be more successful at work. I am more likely to solve my personal and professional problems more impactfully, more smoothly, more timely, right? If I say me being more emotionally intelligent, I'm going to be a happier person because I'm able to manage myself and my relationships with other more effectively, then it is an investment. So first decision, conscious decision is to prioritize this as an investment decision. You need to make the time. And the second thing is about the support system. The one person that would be your fan and your biggest cheerleader of all times is yourself. I like what you said about being surrounded with the right people. Whether you have the right people or you don't. And if you don't, I actually think it's a blessing, not a problem to solve. Because isolation is a gift. Sometimes you need to have your time with your own self. So yes, you have a super busy day. Just spend 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes before bed, leave your smartphone away, go out to the balcony. If you don't live in Dubai in July, then balcony is a good idea.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Yeah,
in
or
July.
if you're not in Toronto in the winter, right?
Yeah.
But what I mean here is find your quiet space. Make it as stable as possible. Be familiar with that space because in your mind, you're going to go like, when I go to this corner, I'm in that sort of mental state where I'm focused, I'm reflective, I am meditating at the moment, and I'm asking myself the important questions. How was I today? What was important to me today? And how successful was I? So I take the highlights of the day, right? The key events that happened today. And I ask myself, this situation happened, and this was my reaction, this was my behavior. Question, what was important to me here? If I find a gap between what was important to me and the way I behaved in that situation or whatever decision I made, then I know I still have work to do there. But if the gap is, shrinking bit by bit, day after day, that will give me the motivation to keep going. That's measurable, right? I know I'm making progress there. And so, yes, people are busy. I'm busy, you're busy, we're all busy, right? But busy with what?
Life.
That's life. You're right, that's life.
Yeah.
So all what we're saying is not make the time, it's just replace. Stay busy with working on yourself to become a more emotionally intelligent person because again, I think it's a smart investment decision to make.
Yeah. No, I love what you said about kind of alone time, because I do definitely agree that that is very important. In regards to kind of a community, do you feel that emotional intelligence can help in a community's kind of purpose if everyone kind of lived in a sense of emotional intelligence? Do you believe that the kind of world would be a best place if everyone had emotional intelligence?
Short answer, yes.
Had a feeling you were going to say that.
I tell you, individualism is dangerous. And what I meant there, I don't mean that you need to be an isolated person. This is not a calling for everybody, to drop everything and just become a monk in the desert or whatever. This is not.
It does become a little bit isolating though, because the people you've surrounded yourself with in the past don't quite understand what you're going through. This was from a personal point of view, and maybe you can share your experience. But when I started working on myself, a lot of people didn't really understand. I stopped going out as much because I wanted to spend that time working on myself. How do you encourage people to deal with that? Because I found I was starting to isolate myself more and more. In the end, it was a good thing because the people that were around me in the end, I didn't actually need or want in my environment for what I was trying to create for myself. However, at the time, you feel like I'm just becoming this guru that's trying to find peace, and what am I searching for? What's your tips to people that kind of are starting out in this journey of self-discovery and kind of learning about themselves and trying to be a more emotional, intelligent person? What's your advice to those people that are kind of struggling with the reclusive side of things?
Such an amazing question. And I have, so it's one answer, but it's two parts, all right? I'm gonna share what I think we shouldn't be doing, how we shouldn't be thinking, and then how we should be thinking.
Okay.
I want to introduce you to a framework. It was designed by a scientist called Karpman. If you Google it, you'll find it super famous. It's called the drama triangle. And what the drama triangle as a social theory basically states is in any human situation where two or more people are involved, people find themselves to naturally sit in one of the following three seats without them consciously knowing it. And I'm not judging anybody, right? It's just, it's us being humans. And those three seats are the following: the victim seat, and this is the person who only focuses on what is it that they are unable to do. Poor me sort of situation. So that's the first seat. The second seat is the rescuer seat. And this person is focused on what other people are unable to do. So wants to save them all the time.
Yeah.
And the third seat is the judge seat, the prosecutor seat. And this person is also focused on what other people are unable to do. And so this is how the conversation would look like. A victim would go like, oh my God, my hand hurts, I can't carry the stable. The rescuer would go like, all right, let me carry the stable for you. And the judge would go like, such a bad job carrying the table, both of you. This is how the conversation would look like. And one of my friends has a son. He's 8 years old. And this is a true story. And then my friend comes back from home, super tired, super exhausted after a long day. It's really late at night, so the 8-year-old son is already asleep. And so my friend checks on his son is sound asleep, but my friend, the father, notices that the son has forgotten to plug his phone. And he knows that the son likes to charge his phone overnight, so he charges it for him. Next morning, the son is super happy. He goes like, Dad, you're the best father in the world. I love you so much. Same night, the father comes home super late from work, checks on the son. The son is sound asleep, and again, the son has forgotten to plug his phone. And so the father plugs it for him. Next morning, the son over breakfast goes like, thanks, Dad. The same night, the father comes home super exhausted from work, goes straight to bed. The following morning over breakfast, the son starts blaming the father for not charging his phone last night. This is the father being a rescuer. Question: is the son able to charge his phone or not? Yes. Then I shouldn't be charging it for him. Because if the son has woken up the next morning, the first morning, with a dead phone, what would have happened the same night?
He would have plugged it in.
He would have remembered, right? Exactly. He would have remembered. He would have learned. It's empowering for everybody. So it's
really hard because he's trying to do a nice thing, isn't it?
This is the pitfall. Trying to be a nice person. How about you start being a nice person to yourself? And you're also being a nice person to others because you're focused on what is it that they are able to do.
Because he's able to do it.
He is able to plug his phone. Why should I do it for him? And why should he, I'm talking about the son now, why should he be expecting me to do it for him? That's unhealthy. Why do I have to bear, and this is the key word here, why do I have to bear the responsibility? Responsibility is a variation of the word ability. If you're able to do it, then you should be doing it because you're responsible.
Isn't it just a nice thing to do, though? For instance, I completely understand what you're saying, but I think a lot of people listening here would be like, well, I would have just plugged it in because it's just a nice thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But is what you're saying that because the son was able to do it, it then bears the responsibility of now when it's not done for him, he's now like angry.
Yeah. Katie, let me tell you something. Every decision we make is a trade-off. Just be conscious of the way you make your trade-offs. What is the price I'm gonna pay to please people and to think of myself as a nice person? What is the price I paid? If I say having the time for myself, prioritizing my own emotional intelligence, my own emotional health and mental health, and I say this is good for me, then I strongly recommend and encourage everybody to be nice to themselves before deciding to be nice to other people. And so the first part of my question is, please do not be a rescuer. You don't have to be dramatic here. You do what you have to do. Let people do what they're able to do. But what if they don't understand? How is this my problem? I have priorities. I'm making a trade-off in a conscious way. This is what matters to me. So this is what we shouldn't be doing. We shouldn't be a rescuer. Now, the second part is all about the, and I'm building on the trade-off logic. What is it that you get? You need to have a plan. Back to the vision. You need to have a plan. If I spend time on my own, yeah, maybe it's on the shorter term, it's impacting people around me. But on the longer term, how would that impact the people around me? May I play another game with you?
Of
It's an
course.
easier one.
I'm liking these games.
All right. On the table right now, we have a mug, we have a laptop, and we have microphones. All right.
Yes,
Why the mug? Why do we have the mug?
because I get water from it.
Exactly, because you need it to hold water, right? Why do you need the laptop?
For questions.
Exactly, because you're reading from it, right?
Yeah.
Why the microphone?
So our audience can hear us.
Fantastic. Why, Haley?
That's
And there you go.
subjective.
And there you go.
Because it could be Yasmin or
The
Noor.
point, the point I'm trying to make here is everything in existence, and this is old Greek philosophy, everything in existence has a purpose. Everything subjected to time, i.e., is subjected to the question why. If it has a beginning and an end, it has a purpose. If it exists, then there is a use for it. Well, life is a big ecosystem. If there is no water, there wouldn't have been a mug. If there is no table, we don't have anything to put the mug on, so we need the table. Everything is connected to everything. Same like us. You have a purpose. In the sense, I don't mean to be very philosophical here. I'm just trying to be logical, more of, right? If you are here, then there is a job, there is a role you play. And so my question is, what role do you play in the life of others? The more emotionally intelligent you are, the more likely you are to be conscious of the role you play in the life of others. In 2015, there was a massive earthquake in Kathmandu in Nepal. And I flew there. I was doing some NGO work at the time. So I flew there. The earthquake killed, let the numbers sink in, the earthquake killed 100,000 people in one night. Yeah, so it was very, very big, right? So I go there, and then we do what we could do to help, and then I met a very wise person, and at this point in my life, I was asking a lot of questions, like, what is the point of life, and what is happy, and all these things.
Why am I here?
Why am I here, all these things. And so I asked the person a question. I was like, what is confidence? What does that mean? And how do you balance between not being a very egoistic, as an arrogant person, and not being a very too humble of a person? What is the healthy balance here? What is confidence? He looked at the sun, and he was like, listen, if the sun comes up one day and says, without me, everything dies, is it arrogant? I said, yes. He's like, why? Isn't it saying the truth? I said, yes, it is. He's like, but, yes. But if the sun comes up one day and says, I am the only source of life, now the sun is being arrogant. Why? Because that's not true. You've got water, you've got air, you've got soil, you've got a lot of other elements that without any of them, life would not continue. Confidence is you being aware of what role you play in your life, and being aware that you're just part of an ecosystem that, by definition, if you wake up in the morning, you decide to just wake up and start using something, not even interacting with other people. If you decide to use your phone, you've just given somebody a job somewhere. You being in existence is, by definition, impacting other people. Whether you like it or not, whether you choose to or not, it's happening. The more emotionally intelligent you are, the more likely you are to understand concepts like responsibility, like ability, like empathy, like manage your own emotions better, so you make decisions better, so you impact people's life in a more conscious manner. That definitely would end up with you being a more influential and a more impactful person in the social sense of things, right? Because the more you deal with people, the more you present yourself as an emotionally intelligent person indirectly, of course, the more likely you are to impress people and influence them positively to want to follow you as a leader, right? They go like, look how calm she is. The world is burning. She's making very good decisions to manage the crisis, but look how calm she is. I want to go talk to Haley and know how she's doing this. And now you're making an impact. You're inspiring a lot of people.
That leads me to my next question, and this is probably one of my last questions because I feel like we could talk for hours, but do you believe that what you just said then, I mean, you can see it in a workplace, you can see it in a personal relationship as well. If the building's burning and someone's calm, you're going to follow that person, not the one that's screaming. Exactly. From a work point of view, do you believe that emotional intelligence makes you more successful?
100%, because it has to come back to the point of what's important to you. I was working on a project, without disclosing too much, I was working with an organization, a governmental organization in Dubai as a consultant. And in the light of this, I was dealing with so many people in a one-on-one setup as an executive coach, and I heard a lot of leaders saying the same thing. They go like, I haven't been promoted in 16 years. And I look at them and I go like, so you've been doing the exact same job for 16 years? And they're like, yeah, and they're not promoting me. So back to the drama triangle, right? I go like, what is it that you can do now to progress your career?
Yeah, leave.
Whatever decision you want to make, right?
Yeah.
Whether you want to leave, whether you want to start doing things differently, but apparently the way you've been doing things is not leading you to where you want to be. We call it an intention impact gap, right?
Yeah.
What you want is different than what you get. Then there is something in the process, as in the way you execute things, that needs to be fixed. And so the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more likely you are to realize what is it that you need to do, what is it that you're able to do now to start solving your problems. In a work setup, pick this, they're not paying me enough. I don't like working 6 days a week. Everybody's doing remote work, we still have to go to the office. I don't like that. I'm not getting promoted. I'm not working well with the team. I'm not working well with my manager. I'm not working well with my team member, right? The board doesn't make sense if I'm in senior leadership position. That the board doesn't make sense. I don't like the decisions. I don't like this. I don't like that. I'm not satisfied with this. I'm not satisfied with that. This is all victim, rescuer, judge kind of seats. This is all dramatic. But the question is, what can I do now? What is my ability right now? If I focus on this, what's important to me? How am I going to do it? This is confidence, this is clarity, this is progression, this is proactivity, i.e. this is achievement, this is moving forward, right? But then compare this to somebody who's not emotionally intelligent, just sitting where they are, blaming the lack of their satisfaction on this person is not doing their job, these guys don't have the faintest idea what they're doing, and this and this and that. How is this serving me as an individual now? I don't think it's serving me in any way. I think it's making it
stressed and upset and angry.
Exactly.
Victim.
Exactly. So being a more emotionally intelligent person has a direct impact on your performance, whether that is your satisfaction level with your career path in general or your career progression, or your performance level in the specific meaning and definition of the word, right? How you perform, how likely you are to achieve your targets. If you're focused on your KPIs, your work goals, et cetera, as in role-related goals, if you focus on what's important to you, will stop wasting time and being distracted with irrelevant tasks, or I'm overwhelmed with a lot of work on my desk, and this and this and that, right? You'll be more of an essentialist person when you focused on what is it that you need to do in order to get there. And so the intention impact gap starts to close a bit by bit, and you're more likely to end up in the situation where you love to see yourself ending up in. Does that answer the question?
It does. I do have another question just off. I thought that was going to be the last question, but I seem to always have questions. A bonus question to these. So how do you, with emotional intelligence in the workplace, so we were mentioning the victim role and mode. Say in the workplace there's many of these people. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of cut that silence and kind of block that out and you just focus on you?
This is an amazing question. I'll give you as brief of an answer as I can, but I'll try not to take the secret sauce away from it. The secret sauce here is to, again, focus on what is it that you're able to do, but also take the other side of emotional intelligence that we haven't really spent a lot of time covering, which is the part that has to do with others, the relationship management and the empathy part. A few rules of thumb. One, nobody's evil by nature. Look at babies. No 2-year-old baby want to kill everybody, right? It's just, it's what the world does to us. It's what life does to us. It's a lot of traumas. It's a lot of difficulties. Everybody is fighting their own battles. So we're all good from deep inside us, right? And so the first thing, realize that even when it comes to intentions, people in their own stories think they are good people. Yeah. 2, communication. I don't understand people who have problems with colleagues, but they wouldn't talk about it with the colleagues. Just go and don't call it confrontation to not, intimidate yourself. It's just a conversation. Just go, listen, I appreciate this, I appreciate that, and it's just a little bit of, feedback skills as well. I really like this, I appreciate you in that, but not to make it...
What do we call it, a sandwich? Is it called a sandwich? Good, bad, good?
Sandwich technique is a technique. I like CBT situation when you're talking about the beliefs, emotions, and the behavior. So you're mainly talking about the perspectives, and then you go like, I was wondering I was wondering.
It's not telling.
Yeah, I was wondering, what's happening? Is this something you want to tell me? With a smile, if the person feels you're calm, you're genuine, you're authentic, but you're also serious and focused, one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to tell you, or you're going to leave with respect. Even if they choose, if they get a little shy and they don't want to really disclose everything they have for you, but then at least you will come across as the stronger person in that interaction, right? And it increases the odds of you understanding what's really happening and you getting to practically solve it, right?
Yeah.
So number one, not everybody is an evil person, right? Try to have a little bit of empathy, feel for the other person, try to get where they come from. Two, you don't have to assume number one, you just go and talk to them, right? Maybe your virgin was an 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Maybe their virgin is a 12. We're both right. Let's just agree on, it could be an 8, it could be a 12. We leave to work together in a more healthy environment, let me put it this way. And then the third thing, and this is very, very important, if none works, so you try to be empathetic, you try to contain the other person as the more stronger person in that equation, the more emotionally intelligent person, the more proactive person, still doesn't work. The other person is,
Dismissive.
is too strict on their, like when it comes to their position towards you. Drama triangle. What is your responsibility now? Ball in their court, right? You've went to them, you've had the conversation. They're not being as cooperative as you wish them to be. Just focus on what you need to do. More than that, it's a distraction. You're now trying to be a rescuer, trying to please the other person, solve problems for the other person. You've done your part of the responsibility. Now they need to bear their responsibility. Because a relationship has to do with both people. It doesn't work from one side. So do your job, do your role, right? But also be mindful that the other part of it is all the other person's responsibility.
So much we could go into, and thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, I think there's a lot of such great insights and tools that people can go away and help start self-reflecting and kind of understanding where people are coming from now. So I really appreciate your time. We could speak for hours. We might have to get you in for another episode on empathy. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank
you.
Now, our next episode to get you ready for summer holidays is all about packing and decluttering. So don't miss out. We are available, as you know, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Angami. Until next time, stay well and keep thriving. Thank you.